He didn't say much. He just pushed the mop bucket quietly across the marble floor, every step echoing beneath the laughter of people who never looked him in the eye. "That's Henry," the CEO scoffed, loud enough for the boardroom to hear. "If you ever need to know how low you can fall in this company, look no further." They laughed. Every one of them. Except the man with the mop. But when the CEO's daughter walked in seconds later, she froze. Her smile dropped. And the room went silent. Before we dive deeper into this shocking story, drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from. And if you're into gripping stories like this one, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an update. Henry Lattimore, 58, worked nights at Crestwell Enterprises, a towering firm built on ambition, legacy, and ruthless profit. He was there every evening by 5:45 sharp, quiet, neat, invisible. He always wore a faded navy uniform, sleeves rolled just above the wrist, and black shoes that had been polished more times than they'd been replaced. He moved with the quiet dignity of someone who didn't need to prove anything. But nobody noticed Henry, except for Maya the receptionist, who once asked, "Why do you always hum spirituals when you mop?" He just smiled. "Because even dirt deserves music." The truth? Henry used to wear a very different uniform, one with gold cufflinks, patent shoes, and his name stitched onto an executive chair. But that was years ago. A betrayal buried in the ink of a contract he never saw coming. The new CEO, Preston Whitlock, was 38, brash, and born into a legacy he didn't earn. He liked three things: controlling the room, belittling the underdog, and making examples out of people. That Tuesday morning, the boardroom needed to be cleaned. A junior analyst had spilled espresso on the $90,000 Persian rug before a massive client presentation. Security buzzed Henry up. He entered quietly. Preston turned, noticing him just as he was adjusting his tie in the glass wall. "Ugh. The cleanup crew. The real MVPs," he said, voice dripping with sarcasm. "You missed a spot of ambition." The room laughed. "Tell me," Preston added, louder now, eyes locking with Henry's, "when you started mopping floors, did you dream of reaching our boardroom one day?" Henry didn't answer. He just knelt to clean the spill. "No, no," Preston mocked. "Let the man speak. Maybe he'll give us a motivational speech, from briefcase to broomstick." A burst of cruel laughter filled the room. Henry finished mopping, nodded silently, and exited. By noon, he was suspended without pay for disrupting an executive environment. 3 days later, the company hosted its annual shareholder gala, a black tie affair in the Crestwell atrium, champagne flowing like waterfalls, classical music humming under polite laughter. Preston stood near the bar, charming investors and throwing words like synergy and dividends around like confetti. That's when the security doors slid open. A black BMW rolled up. Out stepped a tall man in a tailored charcoal suit, white handkerchief in his breast pocket, walking with quiet confidence. It was Henry. Gone were the janitor's clothes. His shoes gleamed. His tie was silk. And the room began to stare. But no one said a word until she arrived. Elena Whitlock, Preston's only daughter, just home from a semester abroad, walked in with a wide grin, scanning the crowd. Then her eyes landed on Henry. And her body froze. "Uncle Henry?" she whispered. The entire atrium turned. Preston's eyes narrowed. "You know him?" She turned slowly, almost shaking. "Dad? That's Henry Lattimore. Grandpa's old partner. The man you said was unreliable. He was the architect of the Crestwell model." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Henry didn't smile. He stepped forward and spoke quietly. "I co-wrote the initial patents for Crestwell's predictive software. Your father and I were like brothers. Until your name replaced mine on the contract." He opened his briefcase and placed a stack of papers on the podium. "I never fought it. I had just buried my wife. And I didn't have the strength to fight back then. But I bought shares. Slowly. Quietly. And as of this morning, I own 51%. Preston turned white. "That's not possible." Henry simply replied, "What's not possible is what you did to this company's soul. To the way you treat people. That ends tonight." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Security approached Preston. His protests echoed as he was quietly escorted out. Henry turned to the board. "I won't be CO. I'm too old and too tired for that. But I'll be watching. And the next janitor you mock might be the man who signs your bonus." As Henry stepped outside into the night air, a young man, maybe early 20s, wore a faded hoodie and sneakers, clearly out of place at a high-end corporate gala. His eyes darted left and right like someone watching for shadows. "Mr. Lattimore?" Henry paused. "Yeah." The young man glanced back toward the building. "There's something you need to know. About Preston. About what he did before tonight. There's someone in danger." Henry narrowed his eyes. "Who are you?" Henry asked carefully. "I'm Eric," the boy said. "I was Preston's intern. He fired me last month. But not before I saw something." Henry frowned. "Something like what?" Eric looked down, voice trembling. "He's been stealing from Crestwell's pension fund and hiding it in shell companies. Offshore. I have proof." Henry's eyes hardened. Whatever quiet joy he'd felt an hour ago evaporated. "How do you know?" Henry asked. "He used me to move files between servers. Thought I was too dumb to understand them. But my mom's a CPA. I recognized the structure." Eric reached into his backpack, pulling out a flash drive sealed in a plastic bag. "He threatened my family. Said if I told anyone, he'd bury us in lawsuits and NDAs." Henry took the drive slowly, the weight of it heavier than it looked. "Why come to me?" Eric's eyes met his. "Because you're the only one who just brought him down without saying a word. I figured, if anyone could finish the job, it's you." Henry exhaled. "All right, let's make sure the world hears it." Back at Crestwell's executive offices, Henry unlocked his old login credentials, the ones nobody thought still worked. The files Eric had given him weren't just numbers, they were names. Hundreds of them. Retired employees. Families. People whose futures were being siphoned into shell corporations tied to luxury condos in Dubai, private yachts, and a fake charity with Preston's name on it. Henry's hands trembled. He wasn't just a bully. Preston was a thief. And worse, he was laundering the money through a children's literacy nonprofit he promoted at every gala. Henry stared at the glossy brochure on the desk, Preston holding a book with a smiling group of black schoolchildren. All fake. All a front. Henry sat back, mind racing. He remembered the night his wife died, alone, in a hospital room, because their insurance wouldn't cover a treatment not proven to be cost-effective. Preston's father had denied the exception. Now his son was siphoning millions from a fund meant to protect the elderly and sick. This wasn't just personal. It was war. And Henry wasn't alone. He pulled out an old photograph. 3 men in front of the original Crestwell building. Henry, Gerald Whitlock, Preston's father, and a third man. Smiling. Confident. That third man was Elena's real grandfather. And Preston had hidden that truth from her too. Just as Henry began printing the files, the door burst open. It was Elena. "Henry," she said, eyes wide, "I just got a call. My father's already out. He's meeting with legal. He's trying to claw back control." Henry didn't blink. "He won't. Not after tonight." "No," she said, stepping forward, "you don't understand. He knows someone's digging. And he's coming after Eric." Henry froze. "What?" "He paid someone off. I overheard him on the phone. Eric's in danger." Henry picked up the phone. No dial tone cut. He reached for his cell phone. "Dead. He's already moved. We have to find Eric." But Elena's face changed again. This time, pale. "There's more. That third man in the photo you showed earlier. That's my real grandfather, isn't it?" Henry looked down. "Yes. But you told me he died when I was a baby. That's what Preston's father wanted you to believe. So who is he?" Henry took a breath. "Your grandfather is still alive. And if I'm right, he has the final piece we need." Henry reached into his wallet and unfolded a weathered note with an address in South Carolina. "We'll leave tonight," he said. Elena nodded, trembling. But as they exited the building, a black SUV pulled slowly around the corner, its headlights off. Eric's voice rang in Henry's memory. He said if I told anyone, he'd bury us. The SUV crept forward, windows tinted dark. Inside, a silhouette watched them. Then picked up the phone. A deep voice spoke. They're moving. You know what to do. Justice takes time. But silence doesn't mean surrender. And the truth, no matter how long it's buried, always rises. Whale add comment. Like, share, subscribe. Let's continue with the story. The night was still. Too still. Henry and Elena moved quickly down the sidewalk, a shared urgency pushing them toward the edge of downtown. But behind them, the slow, soundless roll of the black SUV echoed in Henry's mind like a warning bell. Get in the car, Henry said, yanking open the passenger door of an old Toyota Corolla he kept for quiet travel. Now. Elena didn't argue. As they pulled out into the street, headlights flared in the rearview mirror. They were being followed. Henry took sharp turns through narrow alleys, trying to shake the SUV. He knew these streets like the back of his hand. He'd cleaned them for years. Finally, after several hairpin corners and a red light gamble, the SUV disappeared from view. They didn't speak until they hit the freeway. Where are we going? Elena asked. To your real grandfather, Henry said, gripping the wheel. His name is Silas. And he's the only man Preston fears. Why? Because Silas built Crestwell from nothing. He trusted Gerald Whitlock, Preston's father, with everything. And he got stabbed in the back for it. Why would my dad lie to me? Because if the truth ever got out, he wouldn't have a company to stand on. The car stopped just after dawn at a rundown fishing cabin off a lake in rural South Carolina. Overgrown grass, a broken fence, and silence. Elena stepped out slowly, unsure what to expect. Henry knocked. Nothing. He knocked again, 3 slow, firm raps. A latch clicked from inside. An old black man opened the door, eyes sharp behind silver brows. A long scar ran down one side of his face, but his posture held pride. You finally came, Silas said. And you brought her. He looked at Elena, then his face softened. You have your mother's eyes. Inside the cabin, Silas opened a hidden drawer beneath the fireplace. Inside were files, copies of company records from 40 years ago, including original ownership deeds signed by all 3 founders, Gerald, Silas, and Elena's late mother. Silas pulled out a faded newspaper clipping. Black partner in Crestwell mysteriously disappears after internal conflict. They erased me, Silas said, voice cold. But I kept everything. Gerald forced your mom to sign over her share when she got sick. Told her it was to protect you. And Preston? Elena whispered. He knew all this? He knew, Henry confirmed. And he's about to lose everything he built on lies. As the 3 pored over the documents, Elena's phone buzzed. One message. Unknown number. We have the boy. Turn over the files or he disappears. Her blood ran cold. Eric, she whispered. Silas stood. We're not playing defense anymore. You don't understand, Elena said. They'll hurt him. Henry took the phone and typed back. Tell me where. 3 dots blinked. Then a location pinged. An abandoned shipping yard on the edge of Charleston. Silas handed Henry an old briefcase. This has everything we need to destroy Preston legally. But if that boy dies tonight, none of it will matter. Then we go in smart, Henry said. But just before they left, Silas pulled Henry aside. There's something else you don't know. Something Elena needs to hear. But not yet. As the sun dipped behind the trees, Henry and Elena parked near the yard. Silas made a call to an old contact from his military days. The call was brief. We'll have backup watching from the perimeter, he said. But if anything goes wrong, you keep Elena safe. They entered the yard cautiously. Stacks of rusted containers, broken floodlights, and shadows dancing with every gust of wind. Then they saw Eric, tied to a chair in the open, bruised but alive. And just behind him, Preston. I knew you'd come, he sneered, stepping forward. Let the boy go, Henry said calmly. This ends now. You think you can threaten me with some crusty old files? Preston laughed. You don't even know who you're dealing with. Neither do you, Silas said, stepping forward from the dark. Preston's smirk faltered. You thought you buried me, Silas growled. But roots grow deep. Just then, lights blazed on from all sides. Dozens of armed officers stepped from behind containers. Preston turned to run, but froze as Elena stepped forward, holding the briefcase. These files are already backed up. One press of a button and your entire empire goes public. The offshore accounts. The pension theft. The fake nonprofit. All of it. You wouldn't dare, Preston hissed. Try me. Officers moved in. But just as they handcuffed Preston, one of the agents paused, answering a call on his earpiece, then turned to Henry. There's been a breach at Crestwell headquarters. Someone wiped the internal servers. All company records, gone. Henry's face drained. What? We think there's a second player. Higher up, someone covering their tracks. Silas turned slowly toward the shadows. I was afraid of this. Afraid of who? Elena asked. Silas looked at her, pain in his eyes. The real man behind Gerald Whitlock. The one who ordered your mother's silence. The one who's still out there. You mean, Elena whispered. Silas nodded grimly. Your grandfather isn't the only one you never met. The deeper the lies, the darker the roots. And when you start pulling threads, you find out who's really holding the strings. Your grandfather isn't the only one you've never met. Silas's words echoed through Elena's mind like a gunshot. Her fingers trembled around the flash drive. Behind her, officers cuffed Preston, but the real threat was still out there. Then who is he? She demanded. Who's higher than my father? Silas glanced at Henry. His jaw clenched. His name's Malcolm Hart. You were never supposed to hear that name. Malcolm Hart. Former intelligence contractor. Wealth consultant. Investor. But behind closed doors? Alleged fixer. The man COs called when scandals got too close. And 30 years ago, he buried Silas's entire life, for a price. Malcolm was the architect behind Preston's rise, Silas said. The servers being wiped? That's his style, clean, fast, and final. Henry's face tightened. That means this isn't over. It's just beginning. Elena turned pale. Where is he now? If he's resurfacing, he wants something buried. Or someone. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. She scrolled through old emails on her mother's account, hoping for clues. Then she found it. An email from 6 weeks before her mother died. The subject line, "We need to talk. Before it's too late." Attached was a PDF, a scanned will. Her mother had tried to leave her shares of Crestwell directly to Elena, bypassing Preston. But the will was never filed. She knew, Elena whispered. She tried to stop him. The file's metadata showed it had been accessed 2 days before her death, by an IP address traced back to Malcolm Hart's private server. Henry brought in a friend, Kara, a cybersecurity analyst. She confirmed the shocking part. The original will was never legally destroyed, but forged over with a fake version giving Preston full control. Even worse? The notary who signed the fake will? Kara said. She disappeared 5 years ago. Her name was Maria Levesque. Last seen boarding a flight to Thailand. Never came back. Henry's blood ran cold. That wasn't a will. That was a cover-up. Elena stared at the screen, silent. What happened to my mom? She whispered. Was it really an accident? Silas, shaken, retrieved one final item from his cabin. A dusty cassette tape labeled September 8th, Conference Room B. This was the last time I was in Crestwell headquarters, he said. That day, I recorded everything. They played it. Faint at first, until the voices came clear. Preston, she's getting cold feet. We need Hart to talk to her. Unidentified voice. You're not paying me to scare her. If she talks, you lose more than this company. Preston, then make it look like a mistake. Voice. Understood. Elena's breath caught. He ordered it. They killed her. Henry slammed his fist on the table. That's your proof. But that voice, we need to ID him. Kara ran the tape through voice recognition software. After 30 seconds, a match appeared. Match, 92%, Malcolm Hart. They rushed to alert Detective Ramos, the lead on Preston's arrest. But the line didn't connect. Silas tried his contact from the task force. Number no longer in service. Henry narrowed his eyes. He's cleaning house. That same night, Eric, the boy who had been kidnapped earlier, vanished from protective custody. Only a single word left behind, scrawled on his pillow in red marker. Silence. Elena received a call. No ID. A deep voice. You've come too far. This isn't your fight. Who is this? She snapped. You want your mother's truth? Ask Silas who funded the original Crestwell seed money. Ask him about Geneva. 1983. The call ended. She turned to Silas, eyes narrow. What does Geneva mean? Silas looked like he'd seen a ghost. That's where I met your real father. What I thought. Your mother loved me. But before that, she was with someone else. Malcolm Hart. The world collapsed around her. Malcolm is my grandfather and my father? Silas shook his head. No, but he thinks he is. And that's what makes this dangerous. Because he's not trying to hide the truth. He's trying to protect it. Suddenly, glass shattered. The cabin's window exploded inward. A laser dot appeared on Silas's chest. Henry tackled him to the floor. Gunshot. Then silence. Outside, the sound of an engine disappearing into the dark. Elena crouched beside Silas, screaming. Blood soaked the wood beneath him. Tell me who he is, she whispered. Silas coughed, grabbing her hand. The man behind all this isn't Malcolm. His voice faded. It's someone in the White House. It's someone in the White House. Then he was gone. Elena clutched his hand as sirens approached in the distance. The man who raised her, who worked in silence and dignity for decades, had died protecting a truth powerful enough to bring down legacies. Henry stood frozen, jaw clenched. This isn't just about Crestwell anymore, he muttered. It's about how far the powerful will go to bury the past. 2 days later, Elena sat at her mother's old desk, searching through every scrap of memory. Then she found it, a yellowed envelope marked only for Elena. Open if they come for me. Inside was a photo. Her mother, standing beside a man in uniform, young, dark eyes, Medal of Honor on his chest. Written on the back. Major Julian Cross. Geneva, 1983. Your real father. Julian Cross. Decorated veteran. Later appointed National Security Advisor. A name still whispered in corridors of power. He disappeared after exposing Pentagon corruption in the 90s, Henry said, stunned. They said it was suicide. But Elena now knew. Her real father was silenced. Her mother hunted. Her life rewritten. Determined to expose everything, Elena demanded a press conference at Crestwell headquarters. Preston was gone. Arrested. Malcolm Hart had vanished. But the board remained, silent, trembling. She stepped up to the podium. My name is Elena Moore. My mother was Naomi Cross. My father was Julian Cross. My grandfather was not Preston Whitlock. The real founder of Crestwell was Silas Hayes. A janitor. A black man, dismissed and forgotten. Gasps echoed across the room. She held up the original audio tape, Silas's signed testimony, and the legal will her mother wrote, finally validated. Crestwell belongs to the truth now. But just as applause began, a figure walked through the back doors. Malcolm Hart. Alive. Smirking. Protected by private security. Touching, he said. But the board has already sold Crestwell's patents. Overseas. You've won the battle, Elena, but the war. He leaned in. That's above your pay grade. Elena stepped forward. You mean the war that silenced Julian Cross? That killed my mother? That tried to erase Silas? We found your offshore accounts. We traced the shell companies. And you know what? She lifted a USB stick. The Department of Justice is watching this stream right now. Suddenly, FBI agents burst through the doors. Hart turned to run. But it was over. A month later, Elena stood in front of a new Crestwell sign. Crestwell Foundation for Justice and Innovation. Silas's name was now engraved at the building's entrance. A portrait of Naomi and Julian hung inside the lobby. And Elena? She became the youngest CEO in company history. Henry stood beside her. "You did it," he said softly. "No," she smiled. "We did. Silas did. My mother did. Every janitor, every voice dismissed, they built this." And then, as the ribbon was cut, something unexpected happened. From the crowd, a boy stepped forward. Eric, the kidnapped boy they had rescued earlier. He hugged Elena. "You saved me," he whispered. "Now I want to be just like you." As cameras rolled, Elena gave one last speech. "This isn't just about a company. This is about what happens when truth is ignored, when voices are silenced, when we assume power equals character. My grandfather was a janitor. My mother was erased. My father died a hero. But today, we reclaim their names." The crowd erupted. Tears. Applause. Justice, finally served. Elena looked into the lens and said, "To everyone out there who's ever been dismissed, mocked, or underestimated, your story isn't over. It's just beginning. If this story moved you, shocked you, or reminded you of someone who's been overlooked, share it. Give this video a like to honor Silas and Naomi's story. Comment below, what was the most powerful moment for you? And please, subscribe, because stories like these deserve to be told. And remember, justice doesn't always wear a suit. Sometimes, it wears a janitor's uniform.